Hey, what's up, good people? I'm QC. Welcome to this live stream for Talking and Grubbing. This is my first live stream, so please all come in. I'm getting ready to talk about these NBA playoffs for 2019. There's a lot of storylines, a lot of questions going into these playoffs. This is the first time since 2005 LeBron James won't be participating in the NBA playoffs. Dwayne Wade and Dirk Nowitzki just retired. Also, the big question is, can the Warriors repeat, or will they be like other teams that went back to back and not accomplish that goal? And it's about to grub on a little din here. This corn, chicken, and macaroni salad. And also, I'm about to share this on Facebook as well as Twitter. Let everybody know that I'm live. Right now, I gotta share this on Twitter. Let everybody know I'm live right now. Okay, got 3 people. Come on, y'all, say something. About to grow up here. And also, when y'all come in, hit the like button. Now, as far as the Warriors, their chances of three-peating is 50-50. Yes, they got the talent. Hell, they got the Monstars on their excuse me. They got the Monstars on their team. Steph, KD, Clay, Draymond, and Boogie. But as we all know, it's very hard to three-peat. That's why only a few teams have done it, like the Lakers in the 2000s, the Bulls twice in the 90s. T Bueno, what's up? How you doing? Glad you came on. But, a lot of people feel that, Warriors should just automatically three-peat because of their talent, but it's very hard to three-peat. That's why you didn't see the teams like the Lakers, the Heat, do it. D Remedy, how you doing? Next time, ask for a plate, and I'll try to send you one. Now, let's get into these matchups. I'm going to start in the East, starting with the Milwaukee Bucks and the Detroit Pistons. This is a Central Division showdown in the first round. Now, the Bucks, they've had one great turnaround this season. They finished with the best record in the NBA. Also, the Giannis Antetokounmpo, aka the Greek Freak, I think he's a bona fide favorite, or at least one of the favorites for MVP. I definitely love his game. But also, he has some nice pieces around, like Brook Lopez, who I think is an underrated big man. And now he's added the three-point shot to his game, which is very surprising. Now, Malcolm Brogdon, he's out for at least the first round of the playoffs. So guards like Sterling Brown and veteran George Hill, they got to step up. So I'm definitely anxious to see how they're going to do in his absence. On the flip side with the Pistons, you got Blake Griffin, who's a human highlight dunk reel, and that beast of a center, Andre Drummond. Whew. As a Cavs fan, I dread playing him every time we see him. D Riverty, I'll just cover your branch. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Hey, Big Yankful, what's up? Thanks for joining me. Thank you for joining me. Thank y'all. Hit the like button. Come on. Hit the like button when you come in. Now, also, the Pistons, they have some solid players like Reggie Jackson, Wayne Ellington, who's a hell of a three-point shooter, and big man Don Maker, excuse me. The matchup I'm want to see is the Greek Freak against Andre Drummond. You know, the Greek Freak, he can kill everybody with his speed. Andre Drummond, that man punishes anybody in the paint, whether it's on the offense or the defense. And he is a walking double-double just about every night. And also, I'm interested to see the coaching battle between Dwayne Casey, the Pistons head coach. He was the head coach last year for Toronto as he led them to the best record in the East before they got swept in the second round by the Cavs. And Mike Budenholzer, who's a Greg Popovich disciple. He was with him on the San Antonio Spurs staff for a long time before he became the head coach of the Hawks. But he also ran to the Cavs for a couple of years in a row, ended up getting swept. So I definitely want to see how these two coaches what strategies are they going to come up with to knock each other off. Now, on paper, maybe some people may look at this matchup one-sided towards the Bucks, but not really. You know, both teams have some good stars, some solid role players. Also, they're solid defensively, despite the fact the Bucks being number 11th in total defense. They could definitely block some shots with their, with their arms and that athleticism. Excuse me. They're pretty, they're a long and lanky team. The Pistons, they're 7th in total defense, but their problem might be their offense. They're 25th in offense. So besides Blake and Drummond, who else is going to score for them? Now the Bucks is number 1 in total offense. So they have no problem scoring, and they shoot a lot of threes. So I think this is one of the most underrated series of the first round. But I'm going to go with the Bucks in 6. Now, let me put this down for a second. On to the next matchup is the Toronto Raptors and the Orlando Magic. Excuse me. The Raptors, you know who they're already coming with Kyle Lowry and Kawhi Leonard, who they traded from the San Antonio Spurs in the offseason. You know, Kawhi has not missed a beat ever since he went to the Toronto Raptors. Excuse me. Also, Orlando Magic, you know, they're a young team. They got a pretty good young all-star in Evan Fournier, Evan Fournier, as well as Aaron Gordon, who I think is an underrated forward. But I like Toronto's bench. I like Norman Powell as well as Fred VanVleet. You know, who he could go off at any time. And Danny Green, who, you know, came along with Kawhi Leonard in that trade and won a championship with him in San Antonio in 2014. Magic, I've always liked DJ Augustine. That man can light you up at any minute. He can get hot at any time. Michael Carter Williams, he's a solid veteran, but after being bounced from team to team, he's starting to find a home in Orlando. Now, the matchup I definitely want to see in this series is actually, you know, a matchup nobody's talking about. Marc Gasol, who they acquired from, you know, Memphis at the trade deadline, and Aaron Gordon. You know, both these two big men are pretty solid big men, especially Gasol. I think he's been underrated for a while, but I've always loved his game. This dinner's so good, y'all. Y'all gotta forgive me. But it's definitely gonna come down to the benches in this series, and I really do not trust the Magic bench. Now, both teams are good defensively. Toronto, they finished ninth in total defense. Magic finished fifth in total defense, but their problem is scoring. They finished the regular season 24th in defense, while Toronto finished ninth in total. Offense, while Toronto finished ninth in total offense. Now, Toronto, they could put numbers up on any team in a hurry. They could also rally back from some big deficits because of that offense. So I'm definitely going to take Toronto here in 5 games. Now, on to the next matchup. I think this is another underrated matchup of the playoffs. The Philadelphia 76ers versus the Brooklyn Nets. Now, the 76ers last year, they took some big steps forward by finally getting to the playoffs and getting to the second round before they got beat by the Celtics. In my opinion, they either should have won that series or that series should at least been 6 or 7. But now they're trying to take bigger steps forward by either getting to the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals. Now you know that monster of Joel Embiid is definitely going to bring it. As well as Ben Simmons. Even though I think he still needs to develop a damn jumper, but that's another discussion for another time. As well, and Philly has really went all in to try to win now. They traded for guys like Jimmy Butler and Tobias Harris during the season. So Philly is definitely trying to cash it in, trying to go for it now. Getting good. And also, with the Nets, they've had a hell of a turnaround this season that's been led by Angelo Russell. Lakers, y'all were dumb as hell for getting rid of him. Y'all should have kept him, even if he was a snitch. But It hasn't just been him. Joe Harris, who's had pretty solid, is a great 3-point shooter. Also, Spencer Dinwiddie, who I think is very underrated, one of the most underrated bench players in the NBA. Also, Chris LeVert and Rondae Hollis Jefferson. And I think their head coach, Kenny Atkins, deserves a ton of credit for this turnaround. Matter of fact, if I had a vote, I would definitely put him in the top 3 for the NBA Coach of the Year, because no one thought that the Nets would be in this position. But he definitely had that team believing in themselves, and they're now here in the playoffs. Now, with this series, is what it's going to come down to is the benches. And both teams have some, have some good benches. Like Philly, they're anchored by people such as TJ McConnell, Mike Scott, as well as Jonathan Simmons. On the flip side, with the Nets, you have, as I said, Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, who can light up from 3 at any given time, and Rondae Hollis Jefferson, who definitely can get you some could definitely keep some extra possessions alive for the Nets. So I think this is going to be one hell of a series. So I think it's going to be a battle because both teams can score. But I might have my questions about the Nets defensively. But I think they could be solid enough to, they may not stop the Embiids or the Butlers or the Ben Simmons of the world, but they can contain them on most nights. So I'm going to go with the 76ers to win this series in 6 games. Now, I saved the best for last for the Eastern Conference first round, and that's the Indiana Pacers versus the Boston Celtics. Now, starting with the Celtics, this year to take a huge step forward after they got to the Eastern Conference Finals last year without Kyrie Irving before they fell to the Cleveland Cavaliers in some games. But during the regular season, the Celtics have taken some major steps back. A lot of drama in the locker room. Kyrie's being irritable. It seemed like he had one foot on the parquet floor and the other foot out of Boston. Guys such as Terry Rozier and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they all wanted more shine, more touches. So nobody knows what's going on. So right now, you kind of have your questions about this team as far as what they can do in the playoffs. And also, they also have to find ways to step up now because Marcus Smart, who's their Draymond Green, is out could be out for at least the first 2 rounds of the playoffs with an injury. Now, on the flip side to the Indiana Pacers, I got to tip my hat off to head coach Nate McMillan. That's another candidate who should be NBA Coach of the Year. He lost his star, Victor Oladipo, earlier in the season to the injury for the rest of the season. And, man, he has galvanized his troops to get the 4th seed and be in the playoffs. And the Pacers, they are a very scrappy team. As a Cavs man, I could not stand them seeing in the playoffs last year. You got guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, as well as Miles Turner, who can always, get rebounds, go after the 50-50 balls and keep extra possessions alive for the Pacers. Veteran Corey Joseph, who's a real solid player off the bench, as well as guard Darren Collinson and Thaddeus Young. That's another big who can make your life hell as well. Now the Celtics, we all know that there's Kyrie Irving, Al Horford, Terry Rozier, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. But they also have a solid bench in veterans like Aaron Baines, excuse me, as well as Marcus Morris, who's like one of the emotional leaders for the Celtics. So, excuse me, this is some good chicken. So they definitely have that to hang on. And now, with Marcus Smart being out, this is Gordon Hayward's chance to really show that Boston invested their money right and to prove that he is still the all-star that he has always been. Man, this series is too close to call. It's going to be a barn burner. Both teams are hell of defensive teams. It's going to be a fight. It's going to be might be some slow down games. It might be some close games. But man, this is going to be one hell of a series. But I'm going to take the Celtics to win this series in 7. All right. Now we're done with the East. It's time to head out west. Starting with the Golden State Warriors versus the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, the Golden State Warriors, they are trying to three-peat. They're trying to become the first team to three-peat since the Lakers did it from 2000 to 2002. KT Bueno says, if they had Oladipo, you think they'd be a higher seed? Yeah, I definitely do. I definitely think they'd be a higher seed with Oladipo. Or they might have just stayed in the 4th seed with Oladipo. That's just my opinion. Yes, the chicken is good. Yes, it is. Now, back to the Warriors and Clippers. Now we all know the Warriors got the Monster squad. They got all their starting 5 has been all stars at one point or another. KD, Steph, Clay, Draymond, and Boogie Cousins. Now, on the flip side with the Clippers, maybe they starting 5 may not be the best starting 5 in the NBA, but you will always go to that bench that's anchored by Lou Williams, who I consider the modern day Vinny Microwave Johnson. That man could put 20 points off the bench in a hurry. Matter of fact, he would definitely be a starter on a lot of other NBA teams. Man, this is good. Also, you still got Wilson Chandler, Danilo Gallinari. I hope I don't met Gallinari. I'm sorry, Gallinari. I apologize. As well as Wilson Chandler, those guys can also ball as well. Now, the Warriors bench, it's been a lot weaker than the 2015 where they won the championship and the 2016 team where they won 73 games. Hell, their bench is even weaker than the 2017 team. Excuse me. So they definitely going to heavily rely on their starters in this series. I mean, the only solid bench player, Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston, Father Time is definitely catching up with them, especially Andre Iguodala. The games I saw this season with the Warriors and him in it, he doesn't have the same, speed that he once had. He's on his last leg. Sean Livingston, he's also on his last leg as well. Jonas Drepko, he's a solid veteran off the bench. Excuse me. And Kevin Looney, excuse me. He's solid, but you don't really, depend on him to get like at least a good 12 points for you off the bench. It used to be with their bench, they can either cut down a deficit or they can extend the lead. Now it seems like when the starters go out, then they're down. The Warriors are down more with the bench than what they once were. But this is gonna be a great series. I know people are gonna think that, the Warriors just gonna run away with this series. No, the Clippers, this team is not a cakewalk. They come into the playoffs hot. They have something to prove. So I definitely expect this series to be competitive. So I'm gonna go with the Warriors to win this series in 7 games. Okay, now on to the next series, the Denver Nuggets versus the San Antonio Spurs. Denver is another great story that's had one hell of a turnaround this season. They went from not making the playoffs last year to the number 2 seed in the Western Conference. And the head coach, Mike Malone, deserves a hell of a lot of credit. If he's not being considered, he's definitely a top 10 candidate for NBA Coach of the Year, because his leadership has definitely shown in this team. This has been one of the most underrated stories in the NBA. I definitely like Jamal Murray as well as Will Barron. Those are my 2 favorite players on the team. As well as Jokic. I've always been a fan of Jokic. I love watching him play every time I see the Nuggets. On the flip, now the Spurs, of course they're the Spurs. As long as Greg Popovich is sitting on the sideline, the Spurs definitely have a chance to do something. And of course, you got LaMarcus Aldridge, who's definitely grown ever since he's been there in San Antonio. Also, you got veterans like Patty Mills, as well as Marco Bellinelli. You got DeMar DeRozan, who's an all-star, who they traded from, who they got for Kawhi Leonard in the trade last offseason. You got Delonte Murray, excuse me. Good young player. You got Rudy Gay, the veteran. So the Spurs definitely can't count them out. Both teams, they're both pretty good defensive teams. Also, they like to play, Denver, they could play both ways. They could go old school and grind it out, or they can run and gun. The Spurs, they're always methodical, no matter what. That's how Pop is. Pop is methodical. He never defers from that. And that's the main thing I respect that about him. Now, I know this series is kind of being slept on by a lot of people because it doesn't offer the flash or the major star power as the other series I've broken down have. But this is still going to be a pretty good series. It's going to be competitive. I can see some close games. I can see I don't see a lot of blowouts. It might be a couple, but not a lot, because both teams, they defend, they know how to score, they love to share the ball, and excuse me, and both these teams are very unselfish. So definitely look out for this series. But I'm gonna predict the Nuggets to win this series in 6. How do you use XSplit? Oh man, XSplit, man. I had to explain it. I had to explain when I'm off here. I can't do that right now. It's a long process, T Bueno. I do appreciate y'all joining me in this live stream, despite the fact y'all can't see me. I didn't want some of y'all to see me. No, I'm just playing. But still, I enjoy y'all in this live stream. Y'all being here in this live stream, be breaking down these matchups for the playoffs. So now let's get on to the next playoff matchup: the Portland Trailblazers versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, the Thunder, they got off to a pretty good start, and in the middle of the season, it seemed like they, fell off a little bit, and they fell into the 6th seed, and Portland ascended to the 3rd seed. Now with Portland, Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, an Ohio native, that they're definitely going to bring it. I think they're one of the most underrated guard duos in all of the NBA. They don't get the credit they deserve. And I think they don't get it because they haven't had a lot of playoff success. I mean, last year they were the 3rd seed, and they ended up getting swept by the New Orleans Pelicans, who was a 6th seed. So maybe that has a lot to do with them not having a lot of playoff success. But they definitely got some, a solid team around them. Maurice Harkless, he's a pretty solid player. Enes Kanter, who they acquired from the Knicks, earlier in the season, as well as veteran Rodney Hood, who could definitely, come off and have a big game for them. And also Nurkic, who's a good center. Now on the flip side, for the Thunder, of course, you got Russell Westbrook, a walking triple-double, as well as Paul George. But you also got cats like Steven Adams, who I think is one of the most underrated centers in the NBA, who can block shots, rebound, and is definitely a force in that paint. It's hard to come into the middle on that man. Also, you got dudes like Jeremiah Grant, as well as Dennis Schroeder, the veteran, Andre Robertson. All those guys can definitely have a big game for you on any given night. So we know what the stars on both teams are going to do. It's going to come down to the supporting cast. Which supporting cast can show up consistently in this series and advance their team to the second round? That's the main question here in this series. Also, the OKC, they're a pretty good they're a good defensive team. Portland, I definitely have questions about their defense. But both these teams definitely can score. Both stars on both teams can go off and kill any team for about 60, 70, hell, even 80 points a night. So this is going to be a great series. This is going to be a fun series. I'm looking forward to watching it, because I enjoy, I know Russell Westbrook was just voted recently the most overrated player in the NBA by players. I don't know where they got that from, but to each his own. But I enjoy watching both stars play, and I can't wait to see which supporting cast can show up for them to advance their team to the second round. There's another series that is too close, that was too close to call for me. I went back and forth on my prediction all night long before I came on here. I even went back and forth on my prediction today on this series because, both stars can definitely deliver in the clutch in the playoffs. But I got to take OKC in this series. I think OKC wins this series in 6. Now, as I did with the East, I saved the best for last, and I'm about to break down this series between the Houston Rockets and the Utah Jazz. Now, we all know James Harden, the bearded one, who's definitely one of the bona fide MVP candidates once again this season, as well as we know what Chris Paul can do. But Houston has a solid supporting cast. Eric Gordon, I think he's definitely slept on as a shooting guard. You got the veteran Nene. You got Terrence Jones and definitely PJ Tucker, who is definitely underrated as a small forward. And he's one hell of excuse me, a perimeter defender. And Gerald Green, who's a nice role player off the bench. Now on the flip side, Utah Jazz. You got, big Rudy Gobert, always intimidating. Also, you got old man Joe Ingles. It seems like, it seems like he's been beating Father Time pretty good so far. You got the veteran Kyle Korver, who could light it up from 3-point range. As a Cavs fan, I still miss Kyle Korver. I loved him when he was here. Definitely gonna always have love for him. You got Dante Exum. You got the veteran Jay Crowder, who's who's definitely underrated as a perimeter defender. So this series comes down to who's going to win out. Is it going to be the best offense or the best defense? Houston can definitely score. And they're a pretty solid defensive team. They're top 10 in, defensive efficiency. But Utah, it seems like they're one of those teams who love to play defense. They love a good grind out, 94 to 88 type of game. They love to play that old school ball. Quinn Snyder, their head coach, has always struck me as an old school kind of guy. I might be wrong, but that's just my opinion. But also it's going to come down to supporting cast as well here. Which supporting cast is going to step up for their star in this series to lift him up, to help him to make sure he doesn't have to go and score, say, 50 points in order for the team to win a game in the playoffs. Which supporting cast is going to help their team advance to the next round to play the Golden State Warriors? So that's the question right here. But I think Houston will take this series in 7. So yes, I predicted 2 7-game series in both rounds. Now, throughout the playoffs, I will definitely be here live streaming on YouTube, giving my predictions, giving you the breakdowns throughout every round. So the next time I do a live stream on here, it will be for the second round, the Eastern Conference and Western Conference semifinals. Excuse me. Now, and I'm definitely going to do one for the conference finals and do one for the NBA finals as I predict a 2019 NBA champion. Now, matter of fact, whoever's here in the chat, who do you think is going to walk away with the championship in 2019? You more than welcome to leave your predictions on that now. Who do you think is going to be in the NBA finals? If you want to shoot, y'all gotta excuse me. If you want to shoot your shot on who you think is going to win the title or who's going to be in the NBA finals, you're more than welcome to shoot it now. I'm not gonna do it though, because I like to see things play out. That's just me. But I believe, okay, T. Carter says he believes the Bucks will upset. So you basically think the Bucks will win the NBA championship this year? All right. All right. So that's my breakdown of the first round of the 2019 NBA playoffs. Make sure y'all tune in to the Talking and Grubbing videos here on YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. And when you look at the videos, like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. So the next live stream I'm going to do will be to break down the second round matchups of the NBA playoffs. Till next time, y'all have a good one. Love y'all to life. QC out. Y'all have a good weekend and enjoy the rest of your night.